We are back for another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. Day 4, number 217.
We're back. We are back.
It is that time of the year where the bass are stingy, but other stuff is starting to bite.
True. Very
and
true.
I love that part of the year. Like, you're getting a little nip in the air up there, or is it still sweltering?
Well, here's crazy thing. One of the lakes already turned.
Holy cow, you already had a lake turn. I still got a thermocline in Oklahoma, Frank.
Yeah, one of the lakes turned, and which was wild. And we had really cold, nights in the high 40s. Lakes cooled down a bunch of degrees, and then all of a sudden we're back in the 80s, and the lake's just warmed up 4 more degrees. And it's really a weird time. And we'll talk about some of it.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to get into today. I want to get into, we do deep dives using the deep dive app. Sometimes you get on, you're frustrated because you're not catching them. You're out there, you're trying to get content for LureNet. You're trying to fish, you're grinding it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially in today's day and age and climate, I think that it is important that you make a concerted effort to get on the water with buddies and just have a good time.
Yeah, and that's a good premise, because Troy came in town Sunday night, and I had mapped out this whole game plan. And every day I looked at the weather, I looked at the deep dive app, checked out the winds every day for like 4 days prior to his arrival. And then the day before he came, some of the weather patterns changed, the wind patterns changed, flopped some lakes around, predicated on that. And then of course, nothing went to plan.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into that. A couple of housekeeping clips before we get into this. One, I see a comment from JB Fishing that says, anxious for my shirt, taking forever. So the BTL store is open until September 21st. But here's the way we were able to do this and keep the prices low. If you see here, it says, welcome to BTL fall pre-sale. All orders will be processed after the store closes. So what that allows is, instead of us having to buy a bunch of stuff on the front end, we only opened it for that 2-week period, and then everything gets processed and shipped at the same. So whether you ordered it the day the store opened or on the 21st, right, they'll all ship in the same 2 or 3 day period. So understand that. Some of the shirts, if they have them, like the basic shirts and BTL stuff, may have shipped if they had the stuff in stock. But like the structural element shirts, the patch hats, the Frank Scalish signature series stuff, all shipped. So like I said, that is open through the 21st. The link is in the YouTube description for the show. And I'm not saying this is going to be the one-time only drop. Like, I think we've pretty much established, but like the next one might be a largemouth. The next one might be a spotted bass. The patch hats are limited edition. Same with the BTL stuff. And then obviously the nice edition of the koozies. So we have that. Also, go ahead.
No, you got my email, right?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to make sure that we get our merch, so we actually have some clothing to wear in the future. Yeah, also,
go ahead.
No, I gotta find something. Holy cow, we never talk on top of each other, and now
never
have at it, Frank.
I got one of your golf shirts too. One of the
oh, you did?
Oh yeah, hell yeah, dude. I wanted to get more of them, and I was like waffling between the colors, and I really wanted the black, but I wound up getting the dark charcoal instead.
I like that. I like the dark charcoal. It just occurred to holy cow. It just occurred to me I did not even know that Deep Dive had a YouTube channel, but they do. It's called Deep Dive App. and
It's
I'm pulling it up.
pretty cool, dude. They show you a lot of tricks and stuff with that app
Yeah.
and when it's applicable. It's a pretty cool deal.
I'm going to pull it up right here. So one of the cool things that they did and are doing is similar to what we've done on day 4 with you, where they're taking like the upcoming tournament. So this is like Elite Series Pro, Chris Zaldane and Kyle Patrick, and then they're walking through like the current conditions taking place on Lake Champlain for the Bassmaster EQ this week. So the big time tournaments that are going on, if you want to kind of get an idea of it and how you can look at water clarity and the wind current and all that stuff through that, and then hear from guys who have fished. Pretty cool something they're doing over there. So if you on YouTube, Deep Dive app, all one word, if you want to get it's pretty good learning stuff, especially if you're ever planning on going to any of those bodies of water.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. I've got some of their clips from it. They're pretty detailed. It's
okay,
pretty impressive.
Third and final, and then we'll get into the show. I wanted to get this all at the big. I have I teased this last week during the show, which was how we are partnering Bass Talk Live, and then a portion of that is day 4 with Fishing Chaos, which is an online tournament platform. I talked about how I was fishing the Scott Barton deal to get a feel for it, working with Tom Brubaker, who's over there at Fishing Chaos app, and that is a done deal. And I believe that starting October 1st, day 4 listeners and BTL listeners will be able to compete in their own Fishing Chaos tournament, where we can basically build a community where we're all fishing a tournament for fun. But I'm trying to decide on the entry fees for it, $30 to $50 probably, but 100%. So I partnered with Fishing Chaos and I said, okay, I'm not going to make a cent on this the entire year. What I want you guys to do is do what you do, which is run the best tournament platform online with the AI stuff that measured, takes all the fish into account. And 100% of the entry fees that viewers and listeners will come up with goes to St. Jude.
Dude, that's huge.
For the entire year. So
yeah, that's huge.
Following this show, I know you and boom, there he is right there. Troy in your kitchen.
Oh, hey.
I know you and Troy are headed to the lake. What's up, Troy? Headed to the lake to get fishing. I appreciate you being in the studio today. But immediately following the show, I'm going to shut everything down. I'm going to reboot it. I got Tom Brubaker coming on, and we're going to do like an hour to actually go through all the ins and outs of this. And then all those details will be kind of released. So if you're a kayaker, if you measure fish, if you're used to it, if you've used the app before, it'll be a good refresher. And if you have absolutely no clue like I did, and it kind of terrified me to do something new and measure fish and turn it in online and all that stuff, it's a piece of cake. So excited to do that. So that's after the show. You won't be a part of it. Troy won't be a part of it. You guys are headed to the lake, but I think those are all of the odds and ends that we can get through in the first 10 minutes of the show.
That's perfect, dude.
Troy, I saw some crazy pictures of some of the biggest hybrid striper that I've ever seen in my life from you guys.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And Frank was not happy when I'm like, we need to pull the plug on this and go to another lake.
Why'd you want to pull the plug?
Yeah. Because we were going to, I was not happy at all, truth be told. We were smacking them hybrids, and literally most of what we caught was over 9 pounds, between 9 and 14 pounds. And he's like, let's go try to catch a muskie in a different lake. that's like,
yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. It was absolutely, it was off the chain. I mean, those things, I mean, it's like fishing in salt water. When those things hit, you have to just let them pull the boat around for a while. Yeah.
How are you guys catching?
What did you ask?
How are you guys catching them?
There's a lot of live scope action.
So here's what we did. So when one guy was on scope, the other guy was randomly throwing a deep diving jerk bait, like a flash point deep, and I was throwing the flash point deep, and I was throwing speed end, believe it or not, because a
Yeah.
lot of these bass were coming up about 6 feet from the surface. And so the speed end would dive down and I can keep it in the middle of them or just above them, depending on how deep they were. But they kept fluctuating, which the weird thing is they kept fluctuating in depth range. And the cool thing was they were using the offshore structure as a gauge for depth, but they weren't on the offshore structure. And once we figured that out, it was game over. I mean, we literally plastered them.
And it was about 50-50 too. I'd say the random casting, once we got in them and not at the right depth, the random casting and the scope, and it was about even on the fish catch.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's pretty fun, actually.
Before we get too far into this, for those who haven't watched every single day explain Troy and Frank how you guys know each other.
So back in the old days when I first started fishing, I literally had my driver's license, and I heard about this tournament in Southern Ohio, and it was actually on a lake called Salt Fork. I've never been there. I never saw it. Didn't even really know where it was. And bass boats back then weren't very prevalent. So I was on my way down to go to Salt Fork, and I didn't know you had to make hotel reservations ahead of time. I didn't know any of that crap. I was a kid. And sure than crap, I'm driving down the freeway and I see two bass boats following each other. So I go, oh, they must be going to the tournament. So I just started following them. Swear to God, I started following them, and sure than crap, they were going to the tournament. And the funny thing about it was, like, I legitimately just followed them to the lake. Didn't know anything. They drove down to the boat ramp. I followed them to the boat ramp. And I don't even know why. I didn't even have a boat. And so I followed them to the boat ramp, and they got out. I got out. We started talking, and it turns out it was Troy's Uncle Don. Donnie goes, hey, if you're not fishing with anyone, could you come fishing with me? And so I'm like, okay, cool. And so I hopped in the guy's boat, and we went fishing, and I caught my first bass in that tournament on a jig with a real pork rind trailer on the rod I used was a 5.5 foot Garcia with the Ambassador 4500 reel on it.
Holy
smokes. It was like saltwater fishing. So anyhow, yeah. So the dude I drew, this is crazy. The dude I drew out with in that tournament, okay, said we're going to be fishing jigs on long points. And I had all these crappie jigs, these tinsel jigs for crappie. I had all this crap, and I pull them out, and he looks at me, he goes, you can't catch them on that. You need this. And he throws me a jig. He throws me a piece of pork.
That's a good boater. That's a great boater.
Yeah, great. I put it on the Ambassador. And anyway, I'll fast forward to the guy I drew out with, but I mean, I won't fast forward to that. But so anyway, so that's where I meet Troy's uncle, Don. So Don goes, hey, I live on Berlin. If you ever want to go fishing, call me and I'll take it. What?
Wait, so Frank Scalish is telling a story that involves an Uncle Don?
The irony is
continue. I just keep going.
Oh God. So Uncle Don,
tie on the jig.
Tie it on, throw it down there, work it like a brick.
Work this pile of cinder blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw somebody put these cinder blocks down here ourselves.
Yeah.
Offshore structure.
So
only good for a year or two. It seems to go away after that.
Yeah.
You should have seen the catfish here last year.
Yeah.
All right, we're going down a rabbit hole. So anyway, so he says he lives on Berlin Reservoir. Come on, you can come and fish with me. So sure enough, I'm like, yeah, I'm into this sport. I'm calling the guy. So I call him up and I start going there. And we fish all the time. And there was all these little team tournaments and stuff going on back then over there. So he goes, hey, my nephew's coming up. Why don't you come down? So that's when I met Troy. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the first times that you and I fished together, we fished on the dock at night. Just hanging out, drinking beer, fishing off of a boat dock. And then we became friends ever since. So we've literally been hanging out, and for God, I don't even know how many years, dude.
So I'll fill in a few of the gaps from my perspective. So the story about him just randomly like seeing two bass boats and following them, thinking, oh, well, they, obviously they're going to the tournament. So let me follow them for 100 miles.
Yeah, true.
So it was my grandfather was in had one of the rigs, and then my uncle had the other. And so whenever they were traveling, they would have like a set time to like call, because no cell phones or anything. So like 8:00 we'll call you, how practice went, because I was a kid, and so I think this was probably about like 1981, maybe yeah, right in there somewhere. So that night I get a call, and my uncle's talking to me. He's like, yeah, there's this kid from Ohio State that's like, he's sleeping on the floor in the hotel room.
Yeah, he let me stay with
I'm
them.
like, what?
All the hotels were
and
booked.
So he's like, yeah, he followed us all the way down 77, and he followed us to the ramp, and we took him fishing with us. And then when we came in, we're like, well, where are you staying? And he's like, oh, I don't have a place. And they're like, well, good grief, well, stay with us. So I hear about him in this like, this random like stalker that's like ends up in their hotel room. And then sure enough, then we meet like at my uncle's house out at the lake, and we went down and did some, night fishing. We caught carp and stuff off the dock. And then one day, I think Frank came down there to pre-fish for a tournament or something.
Mm-hmm. That's when I had the champion.
He had his old champion. He's like, hey, I'm going out he got there late in the day. So it was a few hours in the evening. He's like, you want to go out? And of course I was, ate up with the bass fishing. And I'm like, yeah. And that was it. We went out on Berlin for a couple of hours and had a blast. And then just one thing led to another. And now it's been like, decades and decades and decades of
Okay, I didn't even know this part. So this explains a lot, because Frank pre-show, we jump on 5 minutes early and chat, basically told Frank's nervous on this show because Troy has nothing to lose, because you're at the point like Juice and I are, to where he's known you long enough to where he can get away with some stuff and understand if he says something that pisses you off, Frank.
Oh, I know it's coming.
He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't care.
That's a dangerous scenario. So
all I'm going to tell you is the guy I drew out with in my very first bass tournament that turned me on to the jig and pig back in the day, later on in life, got killed and eaten by a tiger.
Oh yeah, tragic, but true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. He was a lion tamer, and one of the tigers turned on him.
Like in a circus, like he was the guy who took care of them as they traveled.
He trained them. He trained the animals, and one of them turned on him and got him.
Holy cow!
Yeah, dude. This was later on in life, but yeah.
Was he good with the jig? Like, was he a good fisherman?
Yeah, he was good, man. I mean, he was good, but I didn't know shit back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew zero.
Yeah.
Hence the crappie jigs that I brought with me.
It's interesting when you get into the sport, you don't realize the impact you're having on someone. Like I had that same scenario. Well, I mean, it doesn't involve a lion tamer, but
Yeah.
I was 13, 14 years old, had done the casting kids thing, and got in the boat with a guy named Bob Evans, like the restaurant.
gonna
who
say, did he make sausage?
was from Congerville, Illinois, had fishing a couple All-Americans, but he volunteered to do this youth fishing tournament. And I randomly got paired with the guy, and it was just a great experience with him that got me into it. And had he not done that and that not worked, and he had not been patient with me, I mean, I've told the story before. I had bought my first bait, 2 bait casters. I had the Larry Nixon Tournament Series Abu Garcia, and I had a Browning Vectra.
Golly, dude.
And one of them had Gorilla Braid on it, and one of them had Stren Big Game. And we caught him on the Pommy Special, which was that. I mean, I still have one. I had one of the listeners sent it. We caught him on that bait right there, which
oh my gosh,
which is, and that's why I have it up there. It's a spinner bait that when you got it on the top, it go bloop 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 bloop, and we caught him on a and we caught him on a salt crawl. But I mean, I think we finished like 4th or 5th in that first the Shelbyville Youth Tournament, and that kind of started it. And it was just that one kind of connection.
Yeah, and I've been addicted ever since, and it's been it was crazy, because I just remember going through the process. I remember it very well because I laugh my brains off every time I think about how ignorant I was, because every time you gain knowledge, you realize, because you know where you started from. So every time you gain knowledge. And today, like we were talking today, we did some nostalgia fishing this week, just going back to some old places that we used to fish when we were kids and stuff. And you go, God, if we knew half of what we know now, then we would dominate. You know what I mean? You would have dominated every event, because we were talking about something when we were striper fishing or hybrid fishing, and I was running past something. I said, "Oh, I won a tournament here with 17 pounds. I catch them over here, blah, 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 blah." And Troy made a point saying, "Yeah, I remember when we were younger, we would run right over this stuff to go to the bank and flip bushes." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we never even gave it a thought. Like, it wasn't even, that's not where you go. You got to go to the bank and fish bushes. So that's kind of, we talked a lot about that stuff this week because we were just laughing. We were like, God, how could you miss that? But you didn't know that back then, because I mean, back then all we had were flashers, for crying out loud. And you just didn't, that's just not how, you thought about things. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
But that's what makes fishing so cool, is you can never like reach the top. Like I mean, you can fish at the top level, but I feel it's one of the few things. I mean, I think that's why so many people enjoy golf for their entire lives.
Yeah, you're never gonna master it.
Yeah, you can. There's always different levels, and I think, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation. Man, if we knew now what we knew back then, but we're in an era now where, Frank, Troy, myself, anybody who's fishing is going to in 5 years look back and go, man, if we knew now what we knew back in 2025.
Right. Oh, 100%. And here, look, I mean, I learned today. I learn every day, with the advent of all our new technologies that come out and stuff like that. Every day is a learning day. So the coolest thing to me about the sport is it continually grows as you grow. When you stop growing in the sport, it stops growing for you. And so it's just a lot of fun. It really is. It's pulling the lever on a slot machine. You're always waiting for the 3 bars to show up, and it just never gets boring. You're just always out there doing it.
I think I said Stren Big Game, and I didn't mean big game. I meant Stren. I think they had like a abrasion resistant, but this is a newer one. But you want to talk about nostalgia? Let me show this Stren right here. And now this is a newer, but that purple Stren box.
Oh yeah.
Like with that, for some reason, my dad was always a Stren guy when we went to Canada growing up. But like that purple with the Stren on it, even know if they still make line. But that right there, it reminds me of my 13, 14, 15 years old of getting the fresh spool of Stren in the purple. And then I think they also had like a blue one too that might have been like the abrasion resistance. But that was the deal when you put on, spooled on some of that fresh mono. And then they did that. They had the low vis green too. Were you ever a Stren guy?
Yeah, remember Prime? Remember Stren Prime and Prime Plus?
Yeah.
Where they had the center core, and it was coated on the outside with something, and that line every time you'd use it, the center core would pop out in places, and you're like, "What the hell's going on?"
I don't remember that at all. What
was
it called?
Prime Plus. Yeah. It was a co-filament is what they call it. A co-filament.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, you're right. Co-filament. Co-filament.
Stren Prime, Prime.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't remember that.
Oh, dude, it was very tricky line, to say the least.
So you said you guys had to pivot then, because I know that you said you'd had a rough day of bass fishing.
Yeah, so the first day we went out, we actually slaughtered them as far as numbers go. We had over 60. The size was down, but the lake that we chose to go to had literally flipped the day before. And when we got there, the water was like pea green soup and brown. It was the weirdest color ever. Nothing was on the bank, which surprised me because the safest place to fish in the turnover is bank related stuff. Nothing was on the bank. And the offshore bite, I want to say offshore, but it legitimately wasn't like real offshore. It was all related to the first break line. And all the fish came from probably, I would say, I don't know, Troy, what, 6 to 10 feet deep?
6 to 10, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 to 10. And the size was way down. I mean, we caught like 3 good ones, and all the rest were horrible. I mean, I shouldn't call a keeper bass horrible, but they were horrible. And then day two was probably the most disappointing of all, because I can't disclose the lakes that we fished because they're too small. Our lakes in Ohio are not like your guys down south. But this lake that I go to, I have it. I up until the day before yesterday, I said I have it unlocked because I can go there and literally catch, 3.5 to 6 pounders religiously. And I don't think we caught. I think our best 5 fish went 4 pounds.
And was that turning over too?
I don't know.
It might have been heavy, like close to 5 pounds for our best 5.
Yeah, was there a thermocline there?
I didn't find one. So it might have flipped too. I didn't find one. But the weird thing was the bait was from top to bottom, which would be a good indication that it flipped.
Okay, because the bait's going to be where it's the most comfortable, which is why you always see the bait at or right above the thermocline and not in the thermocline for the oxygen content. So when you start seeing it stratify all the way to the top to bottom, that tells you that there's oxygen is the same from the top to the bottom.
Yeah. And it was really bizarre. I was so disappointed. Like I was crushed. And so we were going to go to a different lake yesterday. We were doing a different lake every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And so yesterday's game plan was not where we had gone. But I looked at the weather and the wind was laying down for yesterday. It was going to be light and variable. So I said, we need to go to where I'm catching these giant hybrids. because we'll be able to scope them. We'll be able to stay with them. It's too hard to fight the wind and scope, and they're moving around with the bait everywhere, and it's hard to stay with them when the wind's blowing. So I said, let's just do that. And then I said, then the next day we'll go muskie fishing. So what we wound up going hybrid fishing, and when we first got there, I wasn't seeing what I saw last time, which were those big blobs. I mean, these 13-pound fish on your live scope look like carp, especially if they're worming on the bottom. They look like carp. The bait had elevated, and so everything was suspending in the water column, probably from 4 feet deep to 10 feet deep. Every now and then we'd get some in the 15-foot range. But nothing was relating to the bottom. So when we first got out there, we literally went down this river ledge, and I wasn't seeing what I was accustomed to seeing, and I was kind of not. I'd randomly chuck a minnow out there or randomly start pumping a jerkbait, and we weren't doing anything. So I said, let's go to where I catch bass. Let's go there. And so we go there, and we're crankbait fishing, traditional crankbaits, bumping the rocks and doing all this stuff, bass fishing, and nothing. I mean, nothing. So I said, something's amiss here. I said, let's go back to the first river bend and go relook at something. And we go out there, and all of a sudden, man, I saw the freaking pumpkins floating.
And you were like, whoa. He said, there are the pumpkins. There they are.
I am so gonna smack the hell out of you when this show's over.
I think it's expected now. I got to bring a picture when I visit.
But yeah, so then we got on them, and then it was game on. And man, I like fishing those things. God, they're so big.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It was. I mean, it was one of these things that, like, I'd hook up, and Frank would be like, "Oh, I've got to retie and do this," and he would go and work on tackle for a while the fish is dragging me around, and then when fish would hook up, or when Frank would hook up with a fish, I'd sit down and eat a sandwich, and then be like, "Hey, let me know when you see your leader, and I need to get up there with the net." I mean, it was it was like saltwater fish. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was so much fun. And then he goes, "I got an idea." And I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "Let's leave here and go muskie fishing." I'm like, "What?"
And is this the lake that you muskie fish on, where you catch them on square bills and spinner baits and stuff? So it's not like you're out there throwing gigantic muskie baits. You're basically using bass tackle.
Oh yeah, bass
tackle.
muskie.
Yeah,
dude, I have remember the Flex 2s that Booyah used to make?
Yep.
It's a foam injected square bill with a rattle chamber in it. The bill, the rattle chamber, everything's connected. It's a foam molded bait. Anyway, they discontinued the bait a million years ago, and I got as many as I could before they discontinued it, because the thing's bulletproof. You could bounce it off of a dock. I mean, they're bulletproof. So I got a bunch of them. So I started muskie fishing with them and crushing the muskies. I still have the one today. I've caught over 14 muskies on it. The same
have teeth marks in it.
Oh, it's ratted. You know what? Next Thursday I'll get it.
Well, we don't have a show next Thursday because we'll both be at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame.
My bad. Next time we do a show, I'll have it with me and I'll show it to you. You guys won't believe it. And it still catches them. It still works. And I still use it today.
Fantastic.
Until one takes it from me, I'm going to use it because I'm trying to see how many muskies I could actually catch on this thing. And so anyway, so we go, to my annoyance, we're leaving the lake. Now I was kind of annoyed and kind of not annoyed, because we were killing two birds with one stone, which will free up a different body of water for this afternoon, and then a different body of water for Friday. So we're not going to waste a whole day muskie fishing. So, which isn't really a waste, but you know what I mean. So anyway, so we go to the place at the lake, and I'm like, I know every single place that I catch muskies on this lake. Every single place. I could run to every place, and normally you'll catch them. There's no freaking grass, and the grass that's there is a stringy, horrible looking. Don't even know the name of the grass, and I should look it up, but I'm too lazy to do it because the bass don't use it, the muskie don't use it, so I don't really care about it. So I kept telling Troy, we need the coontail, we need the milfoil, and the coontail is more important than the milfoil. And so we're literally fishing, and it's late. It's like 5 o'clock, and I'm ready to go. Like literally, I'm putting all my stuff up, and I'm like, I'm kind of done with this crap. And I go, you know what? There's a flat on the way back. Let's just go hit it real quick. It usually has grass on it, but none of the places that I was at had it. So he catches a bass right away, and snagged on the crankbait is coontail, and I'm like, holy shit. So then I cast out, boom, I catch a bass. Then he catches another bass, and we went down this stretch, and we just caught him basically halfway back to the ramp. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about with the right grass. That's the right grass. So I said, to do this day over again, not the day, just the musky part of the day, to do it over again, what we should have done was we should have idled around and just found the right grass instead of just fishing on history. We should have just went from scratch. And I believe if we would go back there now, we would slaughter the bass and we would catch muskies, because the grass isn't where it used to be, and I need to go look where it is today, not last summer. You know what I mean? So yeah, so but here again, we didn't even make that move until the end of the day, which.
Couple questions that I want to get to that I started when you mentioned the thermocline. We have done thermocline shows.
Oh, yeah.
Probably we need to do another one, a good refresher for it. Dave wants to know, Frank, when a lake flips, does the thermocline disappear off your 2D sonar?
Yeah, because it doesn't exist anymore.
So you'll see the line, and then, I mean, you'll see the haze and stuff. I mean, it'll look like the bottom and then nothing.
Yeah.
Question, it goes, I was on a lake in New Jersey last week, had a solid thermocline. This week it's gone. That means the lake is flipped?
Yepper. It's gone.
And then that's where you go back and you say, okay, that's where your first inkling then is to fish shallow cover until it's kind of settled.
Yeah, that's my first inkling. If the lake has vegetation, I go right to the vegetation. If the lake doesn't have vegetation, I'll fish points, blowdowns, typical bank fishing. See it, throw at it, fish it. Very typical bank fishing. It's usually stable during the flip. Wind will help. You could fish the windy banks. Wind will help a lot. But it's the September doldrums. I mean, the lake's in a state of flux. The fish they're moving, they're doing different things. Fishing's tough. It's not.
Okay, so here's where you mentioned this relates to this, and this is a question that I've had. So is it tough because without the thermocline, the bait scatters, so you have fish that can feed, or that are going to be feeding around the entire lake, which kind of, is that Bama or?
That's Lenny. She grabbed my computer cord. All of a sudden, I see my computer cord going across the desk.
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah. Is it because the bait scatters, or is it has something to do with the oxygen content or the water clarity that makes those fish hard to bite? Like, what is the reasoning that they are hard to bite during and immediately after the turnover? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. The
Okay.
Lake's in a state of flux. The bait fish now can go anywhere they want, and they do. And the water's off color. And it's just in a state of flux. I mean, to be honest with you, you'll get the algae film. If you look at the post that I did with Troy on day 1, the day one of the fishing adventure. Look at the post where I'm holding up the big bass and look at the right side of the bass boat. Zoom in on that and look at the water. It looks like green marbling on the water. It's disgusting. I don't know if the guys can see it.
You can see it as clear as day.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So you see that green, it's literally a slimy green algae looking terrible. It's horrible.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's horrible. I was very shocked.
Fastball.
Oh, no, dude, those are big bass, man. You got a giant the other day.
7-pounder last night. Okay, so I didn't know about the algae film. That's interesting. I've always seen that and wondered what it was because I obviously was like, hey, that's not pollen. I mean, we're in the fall of the year here.
Yeah, I had a detour my cat with a toy because for some reason she's pulling on the computer cord. And if she bites through the electrical cord, then
we don't have a show or a cat.
We have I'll have hand muffs. Little kitty hand muffs. But yeah, so
and Matt, I kind of knew what we were getting into. Normally, in the past, I've tried to get up here in October, which is like it's just locked in October, but schedule didn't permit it this year.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we're doing is a little bit forced. We expected it to not be like our typical fall trip, but the hybrids definitely put a little star on the week.
Yeah, they were very acceptable.
Troy, let me ask you a question. You spent a lot of time probably over the years with Frank. In your time on the water with him, you're probably one of the few guys outside of like Frankie and maybe a couple other of Frank's buddies, but it's a well-known fact that Frank does not like visitors in his boat. What do you think, in your opinion, from what you've seen over the years, that makes Frank so good on the water?
What makes him so good on the water?
Yeah, like just watching him break down bodies of water and stuff.
Yeah, I think his personality with everything has to be organized and an absolute specific way to the nth degree.
Yeah,
I think that translates directly onto the water. I mean, like you heard him talk about when I was getting ready to come down. Most people would be like, "Oh, cool, we'll go here and there." Here he is. He's like checking. Everything has to be planned out, which is why. And I kind of like screwing with them like this, like, okay, we're at this lake and we got locked in on this pattern and we're catching these hybrids. And then I'm like, hey, let's go hit this, let's go catch some muskie. And he's like, goes into like problem solving for a moment. But then it settles into him and he's like, yeah, okay, that'll work. But he's his methodical approach, which most of us don't have, right? We might think we do, but it's I've not ever shared a boat with anybody that has that process like Frank does.
It's fantastic because you don't miss them. You're not skipping. When you have that thought process and you have that plan, you're systematically eliminating it. And sometimes, just in the time I spent with him, just as he went through his process, sometimes it's the first or second stop, and then you roll with that the rest of the day. And then sometimes he'll come on and be like, oh, I thought this was the deal. I found something better at the end of the day, but you still started. And sometimes when you do that process of elimination, it's kind of like to me, Frank's style of fishing is how you always find your car keys in the last place you look for.
Right. Yeah.
I'm dead serious. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. He's very systematic in his approach, and it works. I mean, it truly works. And I would, a lot of times, I may bail on something a little quicker or get sidetracked on something, whereas he has his process and he kind of goes through, it's like when you ever see like these like commercial airline pilots or these fighter jet pilots, and they're going through this checklist, is this on, is that on? Well, sometimes it seems silly, right? Well, of course the engine's on, but it's a checklist. So you check it off. It's like, okay, well, this depth range, that depth range, the outside bends, the inside bends. He goes through it, and at some point, there it is.
Yeah.
And now he can be like, okay, inside bend, 12 to 14 feet. Now, look, now boom, boom. And it's just a really good, it's good to see it. It's kind of good to ground me again, because I go off on my, and we're very interesting, because we used to fish a lot of team tournaments together, but it's so funny that we literally came up together, shared a boat since the early 80s. Like, we talk almost daily. And if I get deeper, if I'm fishing deeper than 12 feet, I feel like I'm like in a foreign land that I can't speak the language. I'm going to the bank. I'm junk fishing. I'm skipping up under stuff. And he's off, doing structure offshore. So it's funny how our fishing is like this, even though we shared all the same experiences and came up together. But it worked out really well with the team stuff.
Right. Which
had multiple.
was the coolest thing, because before I started fishing professionally, Troy had to move to North Carolina. So he's like, hey, I'm moving to this lake called Lake Norman. You should come down and fish some tournaments with me. And I'm like, okay. Literally, like, I said, just sign us up for a bunch of them. Remember I think it was Yadkin it was called or something like that?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them, but it was a good time.
And so
of course,
I got to stop
about the strong sense of confidence in your decision-making process that you've consistently tested for years.
Yeah, and so this is going to be funny. So I don't know anything about Norman. Troy just moves down there. I'm going on a map. We talk it over. We pick a section of the lake. And remember, it was Pose 400? The very first one.
Yeah.
A Pose 400. And we go out there and we start catching them. We're like, what the hell? And so here's what I noticed, okay? I don't want 100 rods out on my boat. If I can get down to 4 to 1, I'm ecstatic. Okay. Troy, on the other hand, is probably the best junk fisherman that I've ever fished with, because he'll have 15 rods, be stepping over them all, grab one, throw out, catch a fish, put that rod down, grab another one, catch a fish, and I'm like, because it's like this can't happen this way. You know what I mean? And so we started fishing these team tournaments together. Now remember, neither one of us were down there. He just moved down there. We were neither one of us. What did we take? We took a check in the first 20 some tournaments we fished.
I used to call Lake Norman like my second bank account back then. Now I can't compete with them there, but back then it was a different lake, different animal. It was tough. I mean, it was, and back then a lot of the team tournaments had 8 fish limits.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
8 fish limits. But listen to this, Matt. Like 11, 12 pounds were winning those tournaments.
Yeah.
Now
you're 2-pounders.
Yeah, now Norman has really come on, especially since the spots are in there now, and I can't compete with those guys now down there. But yeah, like Frank was driving 500 miles just to run down to fish a little buddy tournament.
Animal.
But it was fun. We learned a lot about that lake back in the day, and it was a good time. And it was, like I said, it was a nice marriage between him getting offshore and fishing a lot of this stuff. Back then, not a lot of people weren't fishing offshore at Lake Norman, but then I had these little sneaky shallow stuff, and we'd mix it up, and it was a blast.
100%. I remember that one Jerry Ryan we fished, I don't know what lake were we on? Where I was catching the big fish on the crankbaits, and you were catching them fluke and docks.
Oh, Kiwi. Yeah.
Kiwi. So literally, so there's what was there? There was like 420
Oh, it was ridiculous.
teams.
It was like almost 500 teams or something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
And so we go to that one, and we wound up short a limit every day, right? One fish short every day, and
And that was an 8 fish limit.
Yeah, that was an 8
I
fish.
think we had 7 each day. Yeah.
And we wound up in 7th or 8th place in that. I don't remember
we
what
did
place.
good. We had the second biggest fish both days.
Both days. Like Troy crosses over. He goes, I got to get under that dock. I go, take it. He crosses over the front of the boat. He skips a fluke underneath the dock, and his line starts peeling out. He leans in on that was the spotted bass? No,
I got the spot. We had roll reversal.
Yeah, that's right. I
spot on the DD22.
Yeah, you got the spot on the DD22. So listen to this, man. So we're cranking close shore ledges. He catches one on the DD22. He's like, I got one. It's a good one. He's fighting it in. I go, oh crap, that's a good fish, dude. And I just scoop it up, and he unhooks it, tags it, and throws it in the live well. It's like a 5-pounder. Mm-hmm. Both of us are like largemouth. We don't even guess. We don't even think about it. 5 and change, largemouth in the box, high fives, the whole 9. It was a spotted bass.
Holy smoke.
It was a spot. And Troy's got big bass, big bass for the day. That was the first day. He's got big bass for the day. And dude, it was like the second to the last guy weighs in, catches another spot that would beat him by like 2 ounces. Mm-hmm. And we lost it. Remember that? And then it was the next day I skipped the fluke under the dock. And I got the largemouth.
Yeah.
And I got the second big bass too. I missed it.
You mentioned that name, Jerry Ryan. He actually just passed away in March of 2024. But man, you want to talk about a legendary guy with some legendary tournament trails. I can't tell you how many of those North Carolina guys and around there talk about fishing the Jerry Ryan tournament trails, kind of growing up and cutting their teeth.
Well, you look at those old results, and you'd be surprised at the people that started there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fishborn. That's where fish got started.
Yeah.
Gerald Swindle, Peter T. Fish. I mean, it's a kind of a who's who back in the day, because there was really nothing else other than the Bassmasters tournaments then.
I think I would have gotten along with this guy. His loves included fishing, hunting, golf, poker, and vacationing in Florida.
It's hard to beat that, right? Yeah. It's hard to beat that.
But and he lived on Lake Norman, right there by where I live in Denver.
Yeah. Okay, I want to bring this up. This is a really good question by Dougie Fresh 91. He said, "What to do when the thermocline hasn't gone away, and it seems like my offshore spots have stopped producing? I have scope, and I can't get anything to chase my minnow, jerkbait, or a rig, and the lake is down." That is a common problem that is literally going on right now for me in Oklahoma too.
So you have to start working your way inshore. And here's the thing. When they start to draw the lake down, it's really simple fishing. You just run points, you run anywhere there's neck downs, anywhere the current's going to speed up on the lake. Most of your bait fish that are shallow are going to go to those spots, and they're feeding zones for the bass. Once the lake gets down far enough and they stop pooling the water, that's when everything goes to hell, because now all the bait starts to suspend everywhere. You have to find out where the majority of the bass started to go to. Sometimes that means just get on the frickin' bank and start bank fishing. And sometimes it means you need to be that mid zone. Like if you make a long cast to the bank and you're working a square bill or a chatterbait and you get bit halfway to the boat, that's that zone. Usually that's 6 to 8 foot water zone. That's the zone where you're going to get feeders. The thing that I noticed, and Troy pointed it out the first day that we went to the lake that flipped, you almost never felt the bass take the bait. You literally, all of a sudden you're like, that's weird. You know what I mean? It's like you never like they were not aggressive in any capacity. They and then when they got the bait, they wouldn't even hardly move your line off. You know how usually if you don't feel them, you see your line going in a direction. You wouldn't even see that. So it was really funky. I mean, it's really funky. It's my least favorite time of year to fish, but I did do a show on it. You have to fish from out to in that time of year. You can't run haphazard. Go to the bank, go back out, go somewhere, go back out. You have to do it a systematic process, or you're not going to find them unless you luckily randomly make a stop and catch some fish. You won't literally know exactly, and you could never find them. You might miss them, which we probably did the second day we fished and had a shitty day. I was running a lot of history on that lake and not really trying to refigure it out. I was just running history, and it screwed me, and it always does when you run history. It always does.
We actually talked about this a couple weeks ago, Frank, when I called you. I have several lakes that are doing the exact same thing. You know, they're bass. There's bait around. They're lethargic. They're almost like zombie. You can't get them to chase it. A lot of times you'll see the bait coming down, regardless of whether it's a jerk bait, whether it's a minnow or whatnot. They're uncatchable fish. And what I ended up doing was doing exactly what you said, where I started pushing shallower. And then what I noticed as I pushed shallower was I started to see groups of bait that were tighter, that were more balls of bait instead of spread out around the thermocline. And then what I started to notice was wolf packs of bass. Instead of 3 or 4 that were just kind of lazily, loosely, I could see that they were hunting. And, I'm in an area that I had never caught them before. It was shallower. I got up, I had a thermocline in 12 to 14 foot. I got up in that 10-foot range that had some fresh water, an active drain that I talked to you later. And you said, hey, was there an ag? I said, I don't know. Let me check. I looked at the deep dive app and I was like, oh my God, it's the only active drain in this part of the lake. And it completely changed the day. So, I mean, I went from, straight up, it's a live scope day, right? So I went from casting to 50 to 60, catching maybe 1 or 2, to completely changing. And it was probably 200, 300 yards from where I thought I was going to catch him. But it moved up shallow. It changed the water. The thermocline went away. I noticed that the bait was more active. And if you look around at it, it looks like crap water. But it had all of the elements. It had the deep water nearby. It had some fresh water that was coming in and moving it. It didn't have a thermocline in it. It had the bait balls that were getting attacked, and ended up catching 50 or 60 fish. Now, I wanted to test that theory. So I went back out to where that thermocline was hard, to where those fish were, didn't catch any in half an hour. And it was that close to where it was 100% going down in a portion of the lake, and the rest of the lake, dead zombie bass that, either your structure that you talk about was below the thermocline to where the fish weren't hanging on it. And the fish that were in it were just lethargic around it. But those fish had pushed up, went back a week later, had completely changed again. They had pushed even shallower. They were now in 4 to 6 foot of water, catching them the same way you do over 20 and 30 foot, except they had pushed even further back.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how they move like that. But it can be, the whole thing is the system and your approach. If you work from out to in and you run into them, so you went back, and then you went from where they were and even shallower. So they were clearly pushing back, and so was the bait. Now, in a few weeks or a month, depending on where you live,
we'll move back out.
Yeah, and it's going to get real predictable too pretty soon, because once everything flips, everything stabilizes. You'll have your typical bait fish migrations to the back of creeks and pockets. And you gotta go back and watch the shows on blueback herring, threadfin, and gizzard shad because they all do different things, and you got to fish their overlaps. Like Troy, you had mentioned that Norman got good when the spotted bass got in there, but but don't forget that time too the bluebacks were taking a stronghold.
Yep.
Because I remember coming down and you're like, dude, they're schooling and in backs of pockets, we got to go. And so I'd go down there and we would be whoa in one pocket, out the next, in another, out the next, and then all of a sudden, there they are, and then we catch them.
Bluebacks, the bluebacks.
Oh my God! But yeah, so Troy, because he would call me, he'd go, dude, it's on, Norman, get down here. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming, and just leave and go, and so it's been a lot of fun, a lot of years. Dude. We've been.
Are you guys fishing today? Okay,
yeah,
we'll wrap it up here because I got a show to do after where we're doing the fishing chaos thing with Tom Brubaker. You guys have whoever knows you won't even tell me how long your drive is because people will take know how that is. So.
We're actually changing it up. We were going to go somewhere. We're going somewhere completely different now.
Largemouth, smallmouth.
Yeah. Largemouth. I'm going to stay off the big lake, and then Friday it's going to be like 15 to 20. So we're not going to go out on the big lake.
When it comes to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame lures, almost all of them are completely sold out. We're approaching the home stretch on that. Appreciate everybody to get them. The only two that are available, there's still a few of the Larry Nixon and enchilada sauce, and there's also a couple of the Bobby Murray and the Cotton Cordell hot gill Big O's. Make sure if you haven't picked those up, the other three, the Roland Martin, the Rick Klon, the Bill. But if you want to get your hands on those other two, loyal listener code capital BTL 25, 15% off regularly priced items, which that is a regularly priced item on lurenet.com. And then we'll be at the Hall of Fame this time next week, Frank.
Yeah, we're gonna be there, baby, with bells on. I'm traveling.
All right,
light,
and it's a good time to end it. I guess StreamYard's doing the skip and audio thing again. So, all right, okay. Troy, thanks for jumping on. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, good time. Catch him up. I expect to see Instagram posts of big giant largemouth.
Nice.
I hope so. I'm another failure.
This has been another edition of ETL Day 4 with Frank Scalish. We'll talk to everybody in 2 weeks. See ya.